right, hey everybody, welcome to Paranormal Peeps. This is the only show where you can listen to a bunch of adults. No, that's not the only show. There's lots of shows out there, but this is the most fun show because we're fun and we talk about paranormal stuff. We have an international audience, so hooray for all of our listeners.
Yeah.
We have some in,
Thank you.
we had one in Russia. We had some in, was it Holland? Nice. We even have some in America. Yay, reach out to all the Americans out there. But where else? Do you remember, Josh, where everybody was?
Yeah, so we had France, Holland, and Russia for our international listeners.
Nice.
Woo. Big time.
Oh, and that other country, New Jersey. Yes. Welcome everybody. We appreciate our listeners, and hopefully you didn't come by once and then never come back again. That's probably what happened with the Russian one, right?
It's very possible.
Yeah. It's like, what? No, not what I wanted. Anyway, this is obviously we are a paranormal podcast. Hopefully you listened to the last episode and got an idea who we are. Unfortunately, Terry could not be with us tonight. She got her second COVID shot tonight, and she's home going with the chills and everything, and not feeling so. Anyway, so we miss her. We love her.
Miss you, Terry.
We love her. She'll be back again. Anyway, tonight we wanted to talk about different types of haunts. There's lots of different kind of ghosts out there. You have intelligent ghosts, you have unintelligent ghosts, not just like the stupid ghost. That's what I would be. I would be an unintelligent ghost. But my favorite kind of ghost, typically just driving right in, is probably the most famous one. Usually they come out around Halloween time, and they have like the little dark circles like for eyes, and they're really scary. Usually they're wearing sheets. Yeah, they're sheet ghosts. I have a picture of one in a hotel room when we were in Moab. Totally scary. Totally scary.
It's rare to catch those.
I know. I have seen illustrations like Charlie Brown. There's an actual, if you guys go and watch the Charlie Brown Halloween, there is an actual, like, real footage of a sheet ghost.
They caught one on video, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's cartoonish, but yes, it's real. Totally real.
Didn't that one have like 10 eyes too?
Yeah, it did. It was like a really scary one because it had more eyes.
This is an alien one.
It was. Oh, they're also in Beetlejuice until they take the sheets off. Anyway, I decided to get the sheet ghosts out there. But no, there are lots of different haunts. There's lots of different kinds of ghosts, different kinds of things that tend to scare people. Lots of things that people get images and hear things, and so we're gonna talk about some of those things. And so let's just dive right in. Who wants to talk about unintelligent ghosts? And not, like I said, not just the stupid ghosts, stupid with two O's. We're talking about unintelligent haunts. What is an unintelligent haunt?
Unintelligent haunts are also commonly known or referred to as residual. Those are basically a tape player that just plays over and over again. It generally is energy that's been imprinted on the environment.
So a lot of times it's energy from a traumatic event, and it doesn't always have to be traumatic, but it's injury from, or not energy. I can't even talk over my words. I can't speak. Energy from traumatic events that are trapped in an object or in a location. So typically, sometimes the environmental circumstances have to be right for it to happen. But when things kind of line up, these events tend to kind of replay and keep replaying. And it's activity that's either present in a location already, or that it will occur when somebody buys an antique or brings something home that the energy is connected to. A common type of thing with that is, you see every night at 9 o'clock, you see this old man that walks past a certain doorway, walks into the kitchen, and doesn't say anything, doesn't respond to anything. You just kind of see that image as it walks by, or follows a certain path, or sometimes you'll hear things. That's kind of the general idea. So did you have more to...
Yeah, so a lot of people call it like the stone tape theory. And interesting enough, I found out that terminology actually started about 1972 from a very unknown BBC movie by the same name. It actually aired only one time. So I don't know if it was popular or not.
So it wasn't really a stone tape like videotape that they kept playing on the air.
No, it was just a single episode or a single movie that they actually aired out.
Have you seen it?
I hadn't even heard of it. It's very niche, of course.
Okay.
But for the long time, back in the 1800s, people were actually theorizing that our environment can record thoughts and verbal words and energy and stuff. And there was a mathematician, believe it or not, you'd think like a philosophy major or a theologian would come up with this. But there was a mathematician by the name of Charles Babbage. I really hope I pronounced his name right.
He might get upset, but sorry.
He might. But the air itself is a vast library on whose pages are forever written all that man has ever said or a woman whispered.
That's a scary thought right there, because I've said a lot of stupid stuff. Stupid with 2 O's.
But it makes you think that, how much stuff or how much we do every day actually gets imprinted on our environment that someone, maybe 20, 30 years from now might actually be, listening or hearing. So, just think 30 years from now, someone might be living in this room and hear our silly voices coming at night.
All our stupid jokes. Well, I think that's where that energy comes involved, though. I think if it's just something that's light, and this is just me, but from what I understand, if it's a light thing that just happens once or twice, not a real thing. But if you watch the same thing over, or if you have the same thing happening over and over, kind of, like I said, there's imagine the old guy that comes home from work every day, 5 o'clock, comes in, drops his suitcase by the front door, or the muddy boots and whatnot. And then, so every day at 5:30, you hear somehow like the door shuts and you hear the boom or the knock of something being dropped. And then you may even see, if something happened just frequently every day without. And sometimes I can imagine just this, when I come home from work, oftentimes I'm really tired. And sometimes you have that bad day. And if they didn't like their job, there could be more energy put into it. Also seems like something that, like when you hear the stories about you going to a haunted castle and how like every night at 9 o'clock on the ramparts, you hear the sound of bagpipes, and if that's something that there was a lot of emotion played to that and then it makes sense that residual sound would be there. I've never investigated a prison. I know you guys have. But I imagine with all of that negative energy and the sadness and the despair of all those prisoners there, that like imprints like crazy on there. And so that when you did you ever hear like cups on the bars, or I don't know,
We would hear
or swearing screams?
There was, because the prison had a women's section for a point in time, and we would hear, I think we heard 3 screams throughout the night, but it was the same scream, the same sound, the same length of time, and it was mainly just the women who heard it. And it was in the same area every single time.
I'd almost expect to find that like at an asylum too, like or somewhere there they'd like shock therapy, like at Waverly and stuff. Some of the places, some pretty horrific things happen, and so.
Yeah, we actually caught an EVP of a woman screaming when we were at Waverly the last time, up on the 4th floor. And it was actually kind of blood-curdling. She screamed out, "Help me." And we caught it on 2 digital recorders about 400 feet apart.
Oh, wow. And
so that's a good example of something where it's not likely a spirit that's actually sitting there screaming, "Help me." It's a residual thing. It's something that is just imprinted on that land or in that space to where it's just there. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't an intelligent one. Maybe there actually was a spirit there going, "Hey, help me!" Sitting there in a cell or something. I don't know. What did you guys think?
That's the only time I think we caught a woman's voice in the 2 times we've been to Waverly. So I honestly think it was residual in that sense. So I think the 4th floor is where they held individuals who had tuberculosis of the brain. And so, it's entirely possible that they were suffering from dementia or something along those lines.
Right. And like I said, those are places that have a lot of emotional energy charged with it as well. So I think those are probably the most easily identifiable places that would have residual haunts. But even just in homes, people see these things, and one of the things that's always interesting is that people will say they see a ghost walk through a wall, right? And they're like, what's up with that? And it may just be that it's that imprint on the land or on the house that's where the door used to be. I don't know how common it is now to patch up a door and move it 3 feet to the right or on a different wall in a room. Or I know in the house I grew up in, there were several places where you could see where the old door frame used to be. And so
but that's the thing with residual haunts, is that they're not intelligent, so they keep going on the exact same path that they have been doing for years. So whether the door is there or not, it never matters.
And what's cool about it is you're not actually seeing something move. There's nothing actually moves. It's not like there's an actual ghost that is walking there. It's like an imprint of energy in the space, but there's not an actual spirit that's there. You might hear the sounds of something moving, but nothing is actually moving. You may hear the slamming of a cell door. If you're in a prison, you hear that clank or that big boom, but there's not actually a cell door slamming shut. But it's still enough to scare the bejeebies out of you. So I'm looking forward to eventually doing a prison with you guys later, and it's gonna, yeah. I'll be honest, I'm a little nervous. Hospitals, asylums, and prisons are like the places I fear the most. And I've been doing this long enough to know not to be afraid, but still. I don't know.
Well, there's just intense energy and a lot of bad stories coming out of them. So that would be intense.
Well, I think there's also, in some cases, there's a lot of happiness too. And so we tend to focus a lot on the negative energy as being an imprint, but you can have positive energy that imprints on the environment as well.
That's true. Absolutely.
Why couldn't you?
Yeah. So if you guys remember from the first episode, I talked about hearing the bar room scene. That's a very good indication of something that would be a residual haunt. There was none of that going on anymore in there. It was just playing back.
So by that rationale, just thinking off the top of my head, this is completely off script. So like in the movie The Shining, when he goes to the 3rd floor and there's the big party going on and there's that big, would that be something in that? Is that kind of similar to that, or is that just completely different?
No, I think it'd be close to the residual haunting, if it was actually haunting and him not going insane.
Oh, that's true. He was just crazy. Never mind. I stand correct. I correct myself. Another something that falls under the residual haunts are inanimate objects. Have you ever heard the stories about like a ghost ship that comes? People say they see this pirate ship that sails by in the mist at night, or cars that just appear out of nowhere and then just they're gone. Or trains, and people hear the train and they see the light and they go, they're gonna die, and they hear a rush of wind maybe, but there's no train, right? Even things like lamps. There's lots of ghosts. These ghosts can create residual hauntings, and there's no interaction between you and this ghost. It's just this thing that just goes, and you're not in any danger. And you're not actually witnessing any kind of a ghost itself. It's just that leftover energy. And honestly, I think if you see those things or witness things like that, I'd be pretty lucky.
Yeah, I've witnessed the car.
Tell us.
Do you ready?
Do tell.
So with the car, we were out looking at a house that had been abandoned, and we were probably shouldn't have been there, but we were dumb teenagers, right? And it was super fun. So we went out to the house, and there's a road that goes not necessarily around the house, but kind of in front of it, and then goes towards the house, and then it goes around and makes this like little S shape. And while we were standing on the side of the house, we had heard someone scream in the field, and there's nobody there because it's 2:00 in the morning, whatever. And then we look forward, and there is a car coming right at us. And so we all thought we were in trouble. Like, this is the cops. Because it was almost like a spotlight. We're like, we are in trouble. And then we hurried and turned to book it and run. And then we turned around, and there's no car. The light was there, but there was no car. So it never ended up going past us. It was like it came for us and then was gone.
Wow.
Kind of like the Polar Express. No, seriously, wouldn't that be like a ghost train?
Yeah.
There's not really a train going down the middle of the street.
No.
He just witnessed the ghost train and had a hallucination. And anyway, or it's Christmas magic. But no, thanks for sharing. That's awesome. I did. You know what's interesting? I did see. We had watched an episode of the Fact or Faked. If you guys have ever seen those, I think they're doing a recent. It was on recently, so I don't know if it's a new episode, new series. But they were doing a thing about ghost cars, and there was the police footage, the dash cam and stuff, and they were trying to recreate it because the dash cam from the police officer, you know, he's chasing his car around, it's all erratic, and then they go through a fence and disappear in the field, just like it's gone. And then the cops like stops at the fence, going, "How did they get through?" And they think they might have figured out how to debunk it. That they just kind of, with the right conditions, went under the fence. But it was really interesting them trying to figure out how to debunk it. And honestly, it ultimately goes down to the who knows. Mm-hmm. But you hear stories like that, and I think that's kind of cool. Did you feel lucky that you've seen that or experienced that, or does it still just freak you out?
No, it didn't actually. The only thing that really freaked me out was I thought I was going to get caught, right? But then afterwards I was like, that was so cool. You know, like it didn't make me scared, or like I would go back and go try and create that again if I could.
Let's go.
Okay, we're done.
Okay.
Let's go.
Podcast over.
Well, it was fun. Go home, watch some hockey. All right. Anybody else have anything else to add with the residuals? I think we talked about. Josh, you got some stuff.
So people, I mean, there's one part we haven't touched on as much, and we've talked about human and inanimate object, but animals as well. So I think there was a famous, not a famous story, but there was a video on one of the TV shows, and it was of a dog. They could see their dog walking down the same path on their CVV cameras, and you can see that, you know, the dog came up, walked up the path and where the house was at, and so you can have the same type of energy implant if it's an animal as well.
I would assume it would be any living thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Or maybe that's what happens when you hear the dogs barking, but there's no dogs.
That's entirely possible.
Or the evil cat meowing under the door.
No, that one's real.
Oh, that was real. I'm a dog guy. What can I say? Let's talk about shadow people. Tell us, Josh. What are the theories?
During the research for this episode, everything that at least we came across was shadow people being either otherworldly or demonic or evil on those notes. However, we had an incident in Asylum 49 with a full shadow figure, and it was just of one of the residents that lived there. And he actually walked out of his room and then kind of started to walk towards us till we told him to stop moving. And so he was neither evil nor extra dimensional in that avenue, and it was just, you know, a plain old person. But
So he was an intelligent haunt. He was the actual spirit that was just there. You just happened to see the.
Yeah, he actually during certain times of the night he'll come out of his room. The part that was actually really crazy is they closed the fire doors in the hallway, and the end of the hallway was blocked out or blacked out, and so it was basically pitch black. And so here you are in a dark hallway, and you see a shadow walk out, and so now you have something that's blacker than black. It was actually quite interesting to see, and a little bit terrifying at first.
Well, I know with shadow hauntings or shadow people, you don't usually see features, right? So was there any features or any detail?
No, it was just, you could see it was about 6 foot tall. Had the shape and figure of a man, but there was no other solid details about it.
See, and I've seen those too, like at the Family Tree restaurant in Santaquin. You can sometimes see that when the spirits come in, you see those darker spots.
Yeah.
The theory that people will see shadowy figures that come and they just kind of interact. It's almost like they're an interdimensional being. Like there's different dimensions around us, and there are people that are not aware of that we're even seeing that they're doing, and vice versa. Sometimes they see us and go, "What the heck is that person?" And it's just kind of a glimpse into a different dimension. It's very complex and sci-fi-ish to me, but I have heard of it, and that's why I kind of brought it up.
What do you think, though, that if we see them as shadow people, if it is an interdimensional being, do they see us as shadow people as well? So they're like, "Oh my gosh, like there's something there," and then they like run off and go hide.
Yeah, you both crap your pants in two different dimensions at the same time. But it's not an intelligent haunt because you're not really able to communicate or to respond. It's just kind of something that you witnessed, and then it's gone, and you're just, "What the heck was that?" And there's not actually a spirit there, that's making go ooh and making noises and stuff.
Yeah, and I think Jamie had an interaction, a visual interaction of a shadow person over at Waverly.
A story.
So the first time Josh and I went to Waverly was for a public investigation. We were up on the 5th floor. Not many people were up there on the end that we were at. So I was looking straight out over the roof area, and this pair of legs from the knees down ran from the left to the right across the top of the roof. And I saw it full straight on. It wasn't out of the corner of my eye. So, yeah, it was full straight on. And
That's
then
awesome.
Josh and I, we kind of sauntered over to the other side of the building, and Dustin Perry was over there from Ghost Hunters International.
And you blinded him.
And I blinded him on accident, but it was still funny.
Making memories.
Yeah, I'll never forget it. And I didn't see this, but Josh and I were walking side by side, and he said that he had turned and saw a full person, like just shadow person walking in between us. So freaked him out a bit because that was our big investigation, our first big one. So yeah, I never saw it, but he did. So we saw, a couple, through the night.
I would imagine that would be a location that would be fairly infamous for that type of a haunting.
Yeah, I think that building in itself can cross off pretty much every type of haunting that we have on our list.
Yeah. I've also heard that there can be shadow animals as well. Like, I've seen shadow animals. I think they're along that same. Usually, people associate that with a horrifying, scary thing, but it's not necessarily. I think that's just a different dimension. It's not always that it's a demonic dog
And it's not just a spirit, just a spirit of an animal that's going through. It just happens to be a shadow. You're talking about like actual.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a weird concept to me, the whole, interdimensional things. I have a very simple mind, need Coke, drink a Coke, Mikey happy. That works for me. So, but Josh, you got a couple other things down on here. Does anybody else have anything else they want to add with that real quick with the shadow people before we go any further? All right. So there's a couple other things you have down here. Let's talk about those.
Yeah, so during the fun research of types of haunts, we came across some lesser known types of haunts and ghosts. One of them being what's called funnel ghosts. So these are most commonly found at like old historic buildings. They're technically or sometimes associated with like cold spots in the rooms and in areas along those. And they can appear as like a whirling spiral of light or even like a wispy wisp of light. So I think a lot of these get caught on like photographs and videos and those types of things. And as our technology gets better with our cameras and stuff like that, we go from the old 35 millimeter film to now 4K and 8K digital.
35 millimeter. I grew up with the 110, kids.
That was the long camera, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the long one, and you had the big square cube, the flash cube you put on top. Dating myself right there. Mikey's old.
Yeah, we had an old Polaroid too before they got recalled.
Polaroids are... what's funny is you watch the paranormal shows, they like to use Polaroids a lot, which I think is just, I don't know.
Well, because you can't edit that.
Yeah, but I think they can make crappy pictures anyway.
True.
Yeah, but there's also that instant gratification, though, right? Like, instead of like taking a picture and then having to bring it back to your computer on a thumb drive to look at it, you can just snap off 6 photos and wait for them to develop.
Yeah, but
after 6 minutes.
But it's like every picture is like overdeveloped, right? There's never a good picture that comes out on a Polaroid. It's like, ooh, look at this light, this anomaly here. It's like, yeah, it overdeveloped there because it's dark, and you took a picture with a giant flash, and it's why it looks like crap. And there's like 20 of these. Every picture you take like that's going to have a ghost in it. Sorry, I digress. Continue, Josh. Don't get me going on Polaroids. Tell us about ectomist. What is an ectomist?
Oh, ectomist. Okay, so ectomist is a vapor-like mist or fog. It almost looks like as if it's like swirling. It's usually a few feet above the ground. And this kind of reminds me of something that Josh and I saw in Bannock, Montana. We were going through these houses, and it was a beautiful, bright day. And one of these buildings, we looked in this doorway, and you couldn't see if it was like a room. It was so pitch black in there. So I took my camera, and I just held the button down until the flash just kind of, went tick, 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 tick. And it lit it up. And when I looked at the pictures, though, there was this black mass in there. And we couldn't tell anything about the room. But later, I think we went back the following year, didn't we?
Yeah.
We went back the following year and went through that same house, and we came to that same doorway, and you could plainly see that it was a closet, and a tiny closet. But the previous year, we couldn't tell what it was. So, yeah, so that would be maybe an example of ectomist.
I think ecto, and all of a sudden I go to Ghostbusters, and it's like,
I do
it was a
too.
class 4 free floating vapor, a real nasty one too. It's slimed, Every time I hear ecto, all of a sudden I just go to Ghostbusters. But, and they say that they can stay as a mist, or they can morph into a full-bodied apparition.
Yes.
Morphology. Who wants to talk about orbs?
Oh,
AKA dust.
I'm not touching that one.
I have seen in my years of investigation, and I still have it. I can show you guys the video here in the room because the rest of you listeners at home, I'm just not there. But orbs are something that is a very controversial subject. Everybody and their dog takes a picture and goes, look at these orbs. And 98% of the time they are bugs, dust. Oh, I don't know. There's all sorts of things. Vapor mist, humidity stuff in the air. I do have 2 videos from the same house of a legitimate orb. It's the same entity. And it was actually really neat. The lady, I won't mention any names or places, but she was talking to her. She had noticed in like some Christmas videos that she was taking that there was this orb that was moving around, and so she started talking to it, and it was responsive to things. It would go things, and so she called us in. We went and looked at it, and the first video that she got was very compelling. And it's like, okay. And then we were there with the whole team. Were you with us on that, Elisa?
I don't think so.
I know we had one of our friends, Mark, that was very big on. He is an engineer, and he's very big on debunking stuff. He is
Yeah.
Captain Debunk.
He's good.
Some of you guys know me, and he's great at it. But he actually caught the second video, and it's the same area in this lady's room where they were talking, and to her, all the different toys that we were playing with were all reacting, and he was talking. He's like, "Can you come across the room over to me?" And he does, and you see this little orb, and it's round, but it's like blinking. It was weird. We didn't see it with our naked eye, but you could see it through his screen, and so he's got like his big tablet screen here. He's like, "Here it comes," on his camera, and it's just like, wow, that is so wild. And so, remind me, and I'll show you guys, but I don't think I have his permission to post it on the interweb anywhere. But anyway, the point of telling you all this is that they can be real, but most of the time, they're not. And it's not that we're calling anybody out on being dishonest about things, but most of the time, it's really hard to understand that little tiny things will refract light and play it back, and that so it appears in a video or in a picture, but most of the time orbs are very, very rare.
Well,
legitimate orbs.
For sure. The other day I was looking, I had the curtains cracked just a little bit and the sun was coming in. And you think you keep a clean house. The number of particles just floating in that little ray of sunlight coming in the curtains. Like you say, there are things that can refract light and reflect light back. And orbs are just really, really hard to...
Well, and they also have, if you were to look at the difference between a real orb versus a bug or dust or dirt or whatever, the actual orb will have its own flight path. You'll see, like I've seen videos where people will send in like, "Oh, this is an orb, look at this, and I want you guys to come investigate." But you find out it gets close to the camera and all of a sudden you see little wings, and you're like, no. But you look at the dust and you can generally see an airflow pattern. And so once you see that airflow pattern, and then you can see this orb going in a different direction on its own, and it seems to be intelligent, sometimes they will even go and like look as if they're looking at something and then go back into the other direction or go up or down, whatever. But you can tell there's something there with it.
Right.
Well, and the other thing too, and I think this is the part that gets people, is that orbs in general are energy in themselves.
Yeah.
And so because everything is energy, it doesn't necessarily mean that orb is actually a spirit in itself. It just could be energy flow and energy movement.
That's a good point.
Yeah, there are some videos that I have seen where there's like a train track, and there's a place in this world that creates a lot of energy under the ground, and it will create a big ball of energy that you can visually see, and it will go across the tracks and go across in front of you, and you're like, holy cow, that's the biggest orb I've ever seen. But in reality, it's just a ball of energy.
It's sewer gas.
And I think that's why, like, if you really want to start a fight on a paranormal group,
that's where to go.
Start talking about orbs.
Yep. But no, that you mentioned that, Josh, is why I think it's a good place to put it on the unintelligent, right? Is because it's not, well, some orbs, like I said, this video that I can show you guys, would be an intelligent because it was an actual spirit that was there, spirit energy, and it was responsive to our communications with it. But some of these, instances, like where you're talking about a ball of energy that just kind of moving, that may not be a bug, may not be dust, but just that ball of energy and I wonder if sometimes when you see it with your own naked eye, if that's only certain people that can see those sorts of things, just like mediums can see dead people, I can't, right? But Laura will see things, or Elisa might see things that I don't see, and so I wonder if sometimes more sensitive people can see those that energy. Kind of like auras, right? People see auras, and
Yeah.
I can't.
I don't know, because there was an investigation that I went on, and the people that I was with, so I went up some stairs. It was at a cabin, and it was a big open space. I went up the stairs. Everybody was watching me, and as I got to the top, because I wanted to investigate up the top by myself.
Why was everybody watching you? You were like, hey, everybody, look at me. Watch me go up the stairs.
Because it was a big open area and I was the only one moving.
Don't look at my butt as I go up the stairs.
Strutting my stuff. But they said that they saw the actual orb follow me up the stairs. So, and I wouldn't say that, I think some of them were sensitive and some of them aren't. So I don't know.
Again, I think that one, from that story, I'm thinking that's probably still an intelligent type of a haunt, though, with that one.
It's true.
Well, when you follow her up
But
the
it's-
stairs, look at her.
I did follow
I'm
up
a
the
hot
stairs
babe.
from the parking lot up to the apartment here. Yeah, she went first. I'm going to be honest, it wasn't because I wanted to fall. I was looking at the stairs trying not to pass out.
You should have had her behind you pushing.
No. She was dragging me from behind saying, come on, you can do it. All right, so I think anybody have anything else to add on with unintelligent? Okay. Let's move on to intelligent haunts. Intelligent typically will mean that these are spirits that have an intention of being there. They're present. Sometimes they are willing to communicate. Sometimes they aren't. But they are actually there. Okay, it's not just residual energy. There's actually a spirit being present. And so, does anybody have any more to add to that before we break into the different?
Well,
contributions of
it interacts with the environment. So it's not that it will just go and do its own thing and it won't interact with you. It can interact with its environment. It can see you, you can see it sometimes, if you do EVPs, it'll answer. That would be considered an intelligent haunt, an intelligent answer to a question that you ask.
You go to a bar, you pop open the top, and they look longing, and they go, oh, I want a beer. Or they get mad. It's like you start changing things around in their house or their space, and they're just like, hey, this is how I liked it. So there's a couple of different types of intelligent haunts. Let's talk about human haunts first. The human haunt is basically somebody who was once a living human, had a complete personality, understanding. Like you said, they will react to changes in the environment. Meaning, if you decide to move your furniture around, they sense it, they realize it. They're like, "Hey, the couch was better over against that wall. What are you doing, you morons?" They may say that. Maybe they're like, "Hey, good job."
Or they move it back.
Or they move it back. Those are the awesome ones. Like, nope, I like it back where it was. And that can happen. It can and will change its movements to walk by furniture instead of walking through it. Like a residual, they would walk through that doorway that's no longer there. Or that furniture that is what used to be their path. They'll actually move around it. Sometimes they'll go sit on the furniture. The activity can interact with the environment, like you said. They're known for moving small objects, picture frames, glasses, papers, coffee mugs, etc. And one of the fun things is communication can be made with these ghosts, right? With these spirits. One example of I got lots of examples. We got tons of examples for these. These are what we do. These are what we live for when we go to someo's house and
These are our peeps.
investigation. These are our
These are the
peeps.
fun ones.
These are the ones we go to. We live. Like I said, we live for these because they can't live for themselves. That was stupid with two O's.
They're living through us.
So there's different kinds of, human ones are the most common ghosts, right? Usually they're loved ones who are returning to bring back comfort. They convey important information. Sometimes these spirits can have scents, like perfumes or cigarette smoke. It may be something like my dad smoked cigars, and so every time he's around, I get this cigar smell. You hear about the old lady perfume, grandma's perfume.
Oh, I had that both in the same location when I went.
Cigars and old lady perfume?
Yes, it was at a...
Same spirit?
No, not the same spirit.
Hi, I'm Marge. Bring me another stogie.
It was at a theater, an old theater. And so in one room, I smelled the awfulest old lady perfume. It was awful. But then I walked into another room and it was like instant cigarette smoke, but there's no smoking allowed. And then it went away. So that was pretty cool.
But these spirits will have interactive personalities, and they retain the same personality that they had when they were alive. We say, as in life, so in death. So if you were a complete butthead when you were alive, you're going to be a jerk when you're dead, too. If you were the sweet little lady that everybody loved, you're going to keep that same disposition. So that's something we have found in many of our investigations as well. So that's where you get ghosts like Casper. Not a cartoon. No, he was a cartoon. But yes, cute kid, and then you had the cranky ghosts that were jerks. So anyway, let's go with so first of all, you have a type ones. Okay, this is somebody who lived, had a body, died, and is now without their physical body, but they still have their spirit body. Okay, everybody that lives has a spirit inside of them, and so when you die, that spirit's just no longer in the body, like a hand being pulled out of a glove, right? Gloves out, you still have a hand. Okay, so let's talk about type ones. What are the things that you guys know about these type ones, these human spirits?
They seem to be friendly. I mean, they seem to be able to have you could sit down and have a good EVP session with them, and it's a good civil, I want to know more about you, and you have good conversations. They're not cussing at you and telling you to get out.
Right. Laura, what do you think?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think a lot of these are like grandma or grandpa or cousin Johnny or whatever. I think there are a lot of the ones that are would be around us in this room. They would be our loved ones. Yeah.
Josh, Jamie, you guys have anything to add with that? Josh does.
Yeah.
He's ready to go.
I came across one on the 5th floor of Waverly. So the one side where Jamie saw the shadow legs, we went to the other side, and I put down a flashlight, and I was like, hey, can you move this for me? And we got a clear EVP that says, no. It's like, does that
They
mean
know their limits.
It's like, well, it almost sounded like, I just don't want to do that for you.
Well, and why
Get
would
off
they?
your butt.
It's like, you're perfectly capable of moving yourself. You should do it.
I think that, in my experience, I've seen that the most, right? In fact, most of your haunts that you find, most of the spirits that each of you listeners are going to find in your homes are these type ones. They're not malevolent. They're not mean. They're just there. Just trying to bide their time. Sometimes they're standing over in the corner of the room, just kind of going...
Well, and sometimes they might have a message for their loved one.
Oh, sure,
I'm here.
sure.
I love you. Check under the bed. Whatever.
Stop watching dirty movies.
Yeah. I left my gold necklace under the bathroom mat.
You should apply
whatever.
yourself more.
Get off your butt.
I can tell you what the spirits around me are all doing. They do that hand of the forehead thing all the time. I'm sure they're at my house.
Little face palm.
What an idiot. Yeah. But so these spirits can be either crossed or not crossed, right? So what do I mean by what is a crossed spirit? Anybody want to pipe in what a crossed spirit is? There's no wrong answer. Okay, I'll do it. I just don't want to talk the whole time because
But you're so
I don't
good
wanna get
at it.
I know. So cross spirits. So they say that when you die, and I believe this to be true, that when you die there is a light, and you see it in all the movies too. If you ever seen the movie Ghost, that's one of my favorite movies for a couple of different reasons. Neither of which has to do with Demi Moore.
Has everything to do with pottery?
No, it's that Patrick Swayze's so just. Just kidding. I'm teasing. No, there's a lot of things that they got right in that movie, and that's why I like it. So when you die, people will say that there is a light that appears. People who have had near-death experiences or who have died and come back, that there is a light that appears, and it's basically that window to pass into heaven, so to speak, to go before God, or, people will say they go and they meet with Jesus, and then he sends them back. Or I've heard lots of different stories, but essentially that light is there, and it's that ability for people who have lived well, typically, to cross over and have that reward. From what I understand, there's kind of a 3 to 5 day window before that kind of light starts to diminish and it closes off. And so the thing is, when you die, you can go to the light, you can come back. And a lot of times I think we've come across spirits who were afraid of the light. Like, I don't want to go to the light. You can look at, Poltergeist, the movie, right? Like, don't go to the light, stay away from the light. So, they say don't go to the light, right? That's what they were telling Carol Ann, don't go to the light, don't go to the light. Because once she went to the light, she would cross over to, actually I think it was the bad guy in that particular film. But, there's people will see that and they'll die and they're like, don't go to the light, don't go to the light. But going to the light is good. So if you hear this and you die tomorrow, no, go to the light, okay? Go, it's good. Light, good. Okay, got it? Good. All right, so go to the light. But it's there for that time frame. And a lot of times people think they can't come back if they cross. That we've found to be not true. You can cross and you can come back. But there are people that they call them earthbound spirits. These are spirits who haven't crossed, who, for whatever reason, and we can talk about some of those reasons, when spirits are bound, people who are living, when bonded loved ones are like unable to let go of that person who's passed away. This emotional pull seems to bind the spirit so that it can't move into the light. They're just stuck here going, they just won't let me go. And I think there's a lot of emotional tie that keeps them here in that kind of attachment. So this could be the mother of a mother who can't release the soul of her stillborn child, and carrying that child as a spirit attachment, or when you just are so attached to your spouse that you're just like, I can't live without them. So that's kind of like what would happen with Ghost, right? There's another, she was so distraught. He's like, I can't leave her. Right. Another one would be when there's strong negative feelings that are present at the time of the transition of death. These negative emotions are so dense and so heavy that they seem to kind of chain that spirit to the gravitational field of the earth. So this one I think of kind of like, I want to say Bob Marley. It's not right. It's Jacob Marley, right? So we go back to Christmas Carol. Right, and he's got all the chains on him, and he's like, "These are the chains that I forged," and because there was such negative feeling at that time and such unresolved, that was he felt was. I don't think that any physical chains would bind them. I think those are the chains they kind of put on themselves. Personally,
no, I agree. I think that if you are maybe scared, or if there's something that you're afraid of that you don't want to have to face, by knowing that once you cross over, then you might choose to stay.
Right. And I like that you stayed scared. Were you going to say something, Josh?
Yeah, I was going to say fear of judgment. I think it kind of goes in hand with the butthole in life. You're a butthole in death type of deal. But there are those people who know that, they were not a good person in life. And so they're like, you know what? I'm going to hold off. I'm just going to wait around until Judgment Day actually gets here before I actually face the final judgment. And so they just hang out and be buttholes out here.
Right. And I think that fear is a big thing. One of the ones that I came across in my research was that people who don't know what to expect at the moment of death, some people think that when you're dead, you just cease to exist. That's just lights out, you're done. And so when they die, they're quite shocked, and they're like, what the crap? My body's there, but I can't move it anymore. There's these weird lights, and they just aren't prepared for it. And they think that because they think death's the end, they think they may not realize that they're dead. They said being dead is so much like being alive that many people die without realizing that they are dead. And they're just like freaking out. It's like, what the heck is going on? Something's changed, but I don't know what it is. And so there's that fear of that. And then, like you said, there's also that fear of retribution, for misdeeds. If you know that you've done really bad things, and then you've got to go stand before the bar of God to be judged for it, well, I'm not really ready to go be judged. Anybody that's committed a crime, they're not really usually ready to go turn themselves into the police. They're going to run. They're going to avoid it. And so that kind of thing happens.
All the guilt.
Yeah, that guilt and that shame and that fear of condemnation.
Do you think it sometimes it happens too, like if the death was sudden, like in a car accident or in something like a murder or even a suicide, where you're alive 1 second and then you're dead the next?
Yeah, no, and that's one of the things. There's actually, you mentioned two other things I was going to touch on here with this. So first of all, like when there's a car accident, sometimes people are disoriented, right? So if they hit their head at the moment of death, they may not realize that the spirit's no longer in the body. Death from an impact to the head, like an automobile accident or a gunshot to the head that was unexpected, kind of may jolt that spirit out, and it may compromise that cognitive function. It's said that when you die, you're still feeling those same things, and that's why people will tend to have those horrifying experiences. Maybe it's someone that we're talking about like
Maybe.
this, because
Could
sometimes people with dementia will have such a compromised mental capacity that they may not recognize what's happening when their spirit leaves their body. And if a person is or if they run heavy dose of opiates, they're just high and disoriented. Mm-hmm. They may not realize what's been going on, and then they don't quite realize that they're dead or what's going on, that there's this light here.
For sure.
And so they don't cross. They don't go to it just because they're not understanding what's happening.
Well, they watched Poltergeist, and they know they're not supposed to go
right,
that way.
Yeah. So Josh, you also mentioned suicide. Suicide might chain spirits to the earth, but not always. The circumstances around the suicide are what's important with it. Some spiritual teachers say that if a person takes his own life, that person must stay earthbound for the length of and I'd never heard this before, but they must stay earthbound for the length of the time that they would have lived. So if you were supposed to live on the eternal clock of things, that whatever you were supposed to do for 80 years, right? So, and you commit suicide at age 27, there's people that would teach that, well, you have to remain on earth. You can't cross and go to heaven until that 80-year span has passed. And I think that's kind of a little wonky on my end, but that's just...
I also wonder, though, if it's kind of a religious thing, or just beliefs that you have growing up. So different religions preach different things, and you grow up learning what happens after you die or what doesn't happen after you die. And so I think, those are the things that you learn growing up, right? So when you pass, those are still those things that you know about, and so I would assume that you would tend to follow that.
Yeah, and I think, especially when it comes down to suicide in that avenue, there are religious preachings of mortal sins, and suicide is actually one of those mortal sins. And so you could have somebody who commits suicide and doesn't want to cross because it now becomes a point of fear of judgment.
Right.
Right. And, I was always taught, growing up, that life is God's to give and life is God's to take. And anytime you take a life, whether it's somebody else's or your own, that's wrong. And it's a really touchy subject because suicide is such a sensitive thing to talk about. And I think all of us, anybody, who's listening, probably knows somebody who has committed suicide for whatever reason. And the circumstances are never a cut and dry, it's always sad, right? There's always sadness with it. and then what I did read is this, that an accidental suicide doesn't seem to carry the same kind of trauma as a deliberate suicide. If a person has a terminal illness with an unbearable pain and is already very close to death, sometimes it doesn't kind of seem to carry that same kind of weight to it. I think that a lot of times when you have it seems like we see a lot of spirits that have committed suicide, and I don't know if that's always the correct diagnosis on things, but just it seems like every time I hear people talk about stories like, oh, and there's somebody that committed suicide. But I've talked to some of these spirits, as well, and there's always a sense of sadness and shame that they have, and they didn't cross because they were afraid, because they knew that what they did was wrong. They felt that it was wrong.
Well, and they feel wrong. I mean, if you talk to anybody that has depression, they feel like what they're doing is wrong. They feel all these negative emotions and negative feelings that they're not worth it, all these different things that they feel. And so why wouldn't they feel that after, right? Right.
And a lot of times that's what's fun about it when we go on and do these investigations where we come across these spirits. A lot of times they're ready to cross. And then we have our friends who can help them. I'm looking at one, I'm staring her down.
Yes, sir.
And, that you can help open that window and say, if you're ready, now you can go. And it's just nothing but light and love and peace.
And there's usually loved ones and relatives and family members waiting to welcome these people home. And
Totally.
It's a beautiful spiritual experience.
Yeah, I think it's probably the single most gratifying thing about helping out spirits is knowing that you help them cross over into the light.
Absolutely. Can you imagine being stuck somewhere just in misery and in hell, really, and to be able to help somebody move past that? It is somebody, and you're helping them
These
move
are people.
past that. Yeah.
And so one thing when you're dealing with these spirits, it's always important to treat them as people, because they are still people.
Absolutely.
And so when you investigate, when you go out there on your ghost hunts, to all you listeners, be nice. Respectful. If you can get them to actually communicate with you, thank them for taking the time, because they don't have to.
Well, you just treat them exactly how you would treat any other living being.
Another reason why spirits don't cross, they may have unfinished business. Sometimes, there's the TV show Ghost Whisperer, and the movie Ghosts they're all about people with unresolved issues that are staying earthbound until they can get the situation right. So the movie Ghost is another perfect example about this. He's seeing all these things going on. He's got to set things right. And then once things are solved, the bad guy's out of the way, the light opens up and he goes off to heaven, right?
Yeah, and there was for those who live in the Salt Lake Valley, we have a place called Salt Air. It's got a wonderful, rich history. We actually have what's called Salt Air 3 because the other two burned to the ground. But there was a woman whose body was found right outside right off the highway, right out in front of Salt Air. And her spirit haunted the building until they were actually able to figure out her identity. No one knew who she was. Once they figured out who she was, she actually disappeared and she didn't come back.
Well, and how many times have we experienced that on a haunting where the spirit just wants their story told?
Oh, yeah.
And then they're happy to move on, but they want somebody to acknowledge who they were.
Recognition, and yes. Yep.
And that they were important in this life.
Yep.
And then they're fine. Then they cross when their story's been told enough,
And I think that even goes the same for the living, right? We all want to just be recognized and be heard. And so, if they've passed away and people forgotten about them, they just want to be known.
Yeah.
And that also leads into like things moving in your house and stuff like that. Sometimes they're just trying to get your attention and say, hey, I'm here.
Yep.
I won't cause any noise or any problems. Just
acknowledge me.
Just acknowledge me and say, hey, Bob.
Yep.
Hope you have a good day.
Bob, I appreciate you being here. Please stop hiding my keys. I gotta get to work. All right. So those are some of the reasons, and there may be more reasons why spirits don't cross. But who are cross spirits? What kind of do you know about these folks?
Well, I would say in my experience, cross spirits, they can come back. Typically, they only do if there's a mission or if they're helping a situation or something. It's not that they're stuck here, but they've got things they're doing, and so, which is healthy. You don't want them feeling like they're stuck here and got to be here all the time. So I would say cross spirits are a healthy spirit that come and go when they need, but they've got other things going on, and so that's what I know about them.
Do they ever just come by and like just check up on you, like a loved one's just popping in and saying,
Absolutely.
Yep.
Look over her shoulder. Oh,
Triple
sorry.
absolutely's.
"There is a wall"?
There's a Larry.
You see Wall. She sees Larry. No, for sure. And then there are those that travel and that come by, and then there are also spirit guides as well.
For sure.
And I'm not going to go too deep into what a spirit guide is, but everybody has a spirit guide. Essentially, it's a spirit who has typically a cross spirit who remains there to be your guide. Keep an eye on you, try to keep you out of trouble, try to smack you upside the head when you're being stupid. That's what happens with me a lot. So pretty much everybody's got a spirit guide, at least one, and that's one thing that with my religious views, some of the teachings are that those spirits are there and they're here cheering for us and they're like watching everything we do and they're pulling for us and they're all hoping we make the right decisions, and they're sad when we're sad and they're disappointed and they celebrate when we do a good job. We have our little cheerleading. Everybody has a little cheerleading section. Some people have more crowds, some have less, but nonetheless, those are who these cross spirits are. They're spirits who have basically gone towards the light, they reported the other side, and the way I understand it, or the way that I think of it, is that they are kind of sent back as like kind of a mission from God to go back and watch Mike and hope he doesn't just be a complete knob.
Well, and the thing also is that they're the ones that are going to give you that good, warm feeling. They're not going to... The crossed over spirits are not going to give you those negative, scary, awful feelings. So I wouldn't want anyone to assume that any spirit that comes and visits them is going to be good or bad, but know the difference between the feelings that you receive, because your body is going to be the best tool that you will ever own, and go off the things that you feel.
No, I think that's perfect. Yeah, if you have a spirit guide that's there, it's not going to be that one that gives you that creepy feeling like you're being watched. And typically, spirit guides aren't going to be the ones who are going to be communicating a lot. When you go and you set out your REM pod, your spirit guides aren't going to be the ones that are going to go over and start playing with it and stuff. Not usually. Most of the time, they're like, nah, I'm good.
Well, in my experience, too, I think spirit guides are there to kind of help guide you. And it's your choice whether you're kind of listening to them or not. It's like that bad angel on your shoulder and good angel on your shoulder. Your spirit guide is there trying to help clear a path for you and show you kind of where might be the easiest path in life and where you might have a better success rate. But if you're not willing to listen to them, or, if you're not in tune to them or whatever, you might choose the other path, So they're not only there just to love on you, but they're there to kind of help place good things in your life and help you make better choices.
And that's probably a good sum up of spirit guides. I don't want to go into too much detail. I could go forever about spirit guides.
For sure.
But I'm not going to right now.
Future episode.
Let's see here. So then, so that's kind of a type 1s, right? That's a good sum up of type 1s. These are spirits who lived, died, had a body at once, and now they are just a spirit. Let's talk about type 2s. Lisa, tell us tell about some type 2s.
So a type 2 would be one that, like we had talked about, piece of crap on earth, piece of crap after, and just wants to wreak havoc. And so those types of spirits are not ones that really care about you at all and are going to want to cause fear and angst in you all the time.
Right. Some of us here on our team, we were trained by a local celebrity in Utah, a guy that shout out to Castle. Everybody knows who Castle is. He taught us, the type 2s, and he came up with a type 2A and a 2B. 2A, you can think of A for asshole. Now we're no longer family friendly. Ooh. Oh, okay.
Plug your ears.
Explicit rating now. These are malevolent humans that they just get off on being a complete jerk. And it's probably that boss that you had that you just love to just grind into you, and they're going to be that horrible person when they die. And so these are spirits, like you said, that they're going to do things that scare you because they think it's funny, or they like to see you in misery. They like to inflict pain and fear. Another type is what they call a 2B. This is a human spirit who lived, died, had a body, right? All that process. They are malevolent, they're mean, but they are usually being controlled by something deeper and darker, with what we call a type 3. We'll get to type 3s in a minute. But an example that comes to mind with this one, if I remember the movie correctly, is in the movie Conjuring 2. Anybody here seen that movie? No? Nobody's?
I think you're the only one.
Have you seen it, Laura?
I don't remember shows I've seen.
Okay.
So I don't know. I probably have.
So I'm just going to go ahead and talk then, and if I'm wrong, then
Do it.
somebody can email us and tell us that I was completely wrong. But there's a character named Bill Wilkins in this movie, right? Bill is causing fear. He's yelling at them, get out of my house, leave me alone. And you come to find out that he's being controlled by something else that's darker is preventing him from leaving, and he wants to leave. But this was a case that was the Warrens had actually investigated. Ed and Lorraine Warren had gone over, and this is in Enfield. It's known as the Enfield haunting. Does that sound familiar? More familiar?
Yes, I got it now. Yes.
Okay. So in the movie, he's sitting there, he has his chair, and the daughters, can all of a sudden see him in the TV, kind of sitting behind her.
In the chair.
Yeah. And she's kind of he's talking through her. And, you can hear the recordings, or the actual recordings, and she's talking like Bill Wilkins.
Yes.
She's talking like this old man with a Cockney, accent. And they were trying to, it's about them trying to investigate and find different ways to make sure that she's not making it up. So like they're putting water in her mouth and having her, and she's still communicating with her mouth full of water. Yeah. And then they're like, okay. And he leaves, and then she spits out the water into the glass. And anyway, so these are spirits that are being controlled by something more nefarious. And so you can think of 2B as that they are a type 2, but they are someone's biatch.
So, in your guys' vast...
Vast, I like that.
Yes, your vast...
Vast professional opinion.
Yes, vast professional opinion. Would you say that the 2Bs are much more rare than the 2As?
Yes, I would.
I don't know if I would or not.
I don't know if I would or not either.
It seems, for me, it seems it's been pretty 50-50.
Actually, no, you might be right. I think I'm changing that. I think they're probably a 50-50.
I would agree. I'd concur.
Do you have a reason for asking that?
I know. It was just it's just a thought that if certain spirits are more rare than others, that like the Inhumans, they would be considered to be more rare of a haunt than the human style. That then a 2B, which would be coerced by an inhuman entity, would be more rare in that avenue.
And that's our type 3 is the inhuman spirit. And it depends on who you ask, because you go to some places, I swear every Ghost Adventures show, or not to call out Ghost Adventures, I will. But you go to these shows and there's always a demon. There's always that inhuman spirit. There's always this negative evil entity there. And it's like, I don't know that they're always
That's
true. An inhuman spirit. But everybody jumps. It seems like everybody quickly jumps to that. And I think that's where Josh is getting that. People say, oh, it's the demon. It's like, no, No, it's probably just a type 2, just a butthole.
Well, and I'm sure there's a lot of mistaken identity too, because if... Okay, did anyone else hear that?
No.
A breath?
Yes.
I heard the breath.
It wasn't anybody else either. That was clear.
Mark it.
Missed it. I miss everything good.
Yeah, you do. You snooze, you lose.
Story of my life.
But I think there's a lot of mistaken identity too, because type 2s will harm and can attack people and scratch and cause pain, and they like to. And so, they can be mistaken for an inhuman haunt in that avenue. And I think it happens quite a bit.
Well, because I think it's common that everybody thinks, oh, I got scratched. It's a demon. It's a demon. That's kind of how we've been trained, or that's how we've been programmed, I guess, to believe,
Yeah.
Well, that's what instills the most fear.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of somebody who was a living person who was just a jerk, but I am, people are afraid of a demon,
Yeah,
right?
it's a
That's
D-word.
scary. And
Yeah.
so, a type 2 that's going to go, hey, look at me, I'm a demon. Now you scared? And people get scared, right? And so I think that's kind of what you're getting at there. But there are inhuman spirits, okay? The scriptures tell us, if you follow the Bible, in Revelations chapter 12, it talks about a third of the host of heaven rebelled against God and was kicked out. They followed Lucifer and they chose wrong and they were kicked out. Okay, referred to as demons. They aren't all, super, Beelzebub the Overlord, or as Castle would always say, Shadrach the Undying, or they're not always that powerful, but they're there.
The majority of them are not that powerful, really.
Right. Most of the ones that we've ever come across are like,
Yeah.
they're no match for anybody that's living.
Right.
They're not.
Most of them are just angry because they made a really bad choice.
They are, and they want you to be miserable too,
Yeah.
and so they'll try to scare you.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are those scarier cases where really bad stuff does happen.
And I would say that would be more rare.
That is more rare. When you're hearing about people getting possessed, when you're hearing about, all these horrific things, those sorts of things do tend to be a little bit more rare than, So to me, it wouldn't be uncommon for me to go to a place and they say, oh yeah, there's a type 3 here. We determined that, but they're all around us. But that's just me. Am I breathing heavy in the microphone?
No, I'm hearing more whistling, but I'm holding my breath. I know that's not me. So I don't know if there's anybody else.
That could be me. So I have a little bit of nasal congestion. I've got my
Okay.
nose whistling on a couple different occasions. So that might actually just be me.
Okay.
It's just me. I got a red vine lodged in here right about this midsection here. Debunked.
It might be a Lindor truffle. I'm not sure.
But to talk about, so there are quite a few out there that we would come across that are really not all that scary, and they're not that powerful, and they're fairly easy for us to resolve the situation. But there are some. So let's talk about the nasties, right? Because they do exist. These are typically powerful supernatural beings that can invade homes, attach themselves to objects, inflict mental and physical torture. These ghosts can morph into any shape. However, they're most commonly witnessed as black masses standing in doorways. That's what I read, and I'm like, well, I've seen lots of black masses standing in doorways, and I don't think that they're all inhuman spirits.
Definitely not.
Definitely not. Okay, but I thought it was funny. And so in my notes, I'm like, in Mikey's experience, these beings usually have to be invited into our lives. So if you have a inhuman spirit or a demon, I don't have a problem using the word demon, but if you have an inhuman spirit, that's attached to you or plaguing you, typically they've been invited in.
Whether you realize it or not.
Right. How do they get invited in, Laura? What kinds of things?
You can invite them by just your lifestyle, drugs. If you're on drugs or you're doing really bad stuff, in your life, that can invite them in. If you're playing with Ouija boards, or if you're beating your wife and your kids, or if you're, just anything. that's negative.
I'm going to go on, just put my neck out there and hope you guys don't laugh too hard at me. So I used to think, this is before I was involved in things, I used to think that, or be worried anyway, that evil spirits could come into my home by watching those horrifying movies. Like, why?
Oh,
It's
yeah,
like, I don't want to
easy.
watch Conjuring because then it's inviting this stuff into my home, right?
Yeah.
I've come a long way since then, but I used to be scared to death, and maybe I'm not the only person.
Well,
if you're
I
listening to this at
think- I
home and
think
you
if-
think that, raise your hand, and then I won't.
I
feel
don't.
so
I
bad.
don't know that that's inaccurate, though.
I think it's true.
I don't know that that belief is inaccurate. I think a lot of it is we can create to that environment where it's like, oh, if I think about them, they're going to come, you know. But you're opening a door when you're watching those kind of movies for them to potentially come in to your home. So I don't know that that's.
Would you say you have to more obsess about it though, and constantly
No,
to invite that?
I would say that would help if you want
Right.
one to come to your home, but I don't know that you have to obsess. I think just having that fear and that. How do I describe it?
But I can personally say from my, and it could be that because I've been sensitive my entire life that I am more sensitive to, after watching a show, have those feelings and everything. But I enjoyed those shows growing up. Those were my favorite kind of shows. And I honestly didn't really get scared from them. But I know that after I watched them, I felt like I was being watched. I felt all those things that really honestly wouldn't have bothered me otherwise. So, and for me, that didn't come from the fear of the movie.
So would you say that because you are thinking about it and you have that fear?
No, I wouldn't even be thinking about it because it didn't scare me. It didn't. I enjoyed the movie.
See, I wonder if the way that when my feelings on it were, I don't want to talk about it. Like I remember we watched, I think it was the first Conjuring. You have to ask Terry for sure. But we went to bed, and so we always sleep with our bedroom door open, and I didn't want to talk about it. She wanted to talk about things. I'm like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to think about it because it scared the crap out of me. And then for like hours, I'm laying there awake, looking at the doorway into the hallway, into the darkness,
Waiting for something to come
waiting
out.
for a shadow to move, and
Well, and I think for some people it can
or waiting
be
for
like
something.
that.
And so I wonder if having that fear though is like lighting a big
I
flame
would
for
say,
those
yeah.
moths to go,
Absolutely.
and they're drawn to that energy, to that fear.
I don't think it has to, but it can. Absolutely.
Yes,
that would
absolutely.
definitely attract it more.
And so that's how I used to think about things. Now I'm kind of like,
And maybe
they're
for
all
you,
over the place, and I'm not afraid of them anymore.
And maybe for you, that's exactly how it is, But I think for some people that may be even more sensitive than others, or just whatever. But I think it can happen either way. Either way.
I still watch really scary shows, and then I just clear my house afterwards.
Usually invite them a lot of times. They don't tend to run on the same timetable that we think of. So you go into a haunted place, then you've got something nefarious there, and you're like, come and touch me. Come and knock me over. Come and hit me. Scratch me.
Don't do that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
please
don't
do
ever do that. Because
Not a good idea.
for one, you're inviting them to touch you, but they may not want to do it right now. But you've extended the invitation. Spirits run on a different kind of a time scale. Time for them doesn't quite match the same as what we do, and so these spirits have, they got all the time
You've
in the world.
opened that door, and they
literally-
can walk through it whenever they want to.
They may wait for 30 years, and there's like, Josh just got fired from his job. Jamie left him because she just was tired of looking at his mug.
It's inevitable.
She's laughing. But Josh is, doesn't remember that 20 years ago he was at a haunted asylum somewhere, and he challenged a spirit, this demonic spirit, and called it names and said, "You're weak if you can't scratch me. Come on." He doesn't remember that, but now that he's down in that low point in his life, that inhuman spirit's going to go, "Now's the time I'm going to scratch him. I'm going to scratch him real good." And they will wait until that you are at your most vulnerable, that you're most weak, and then they will kick you. So you don't see the blind side coming. So don't ever challenge inhuman spirits or human spirits. It's just not nice. So
Yeah, and one thing, Mike, we didn't touch on, though, is that while the Inhumans need to be invited, they don't necessarily have to be invited by you.
True.
So you can have someone that did something in your house that you know, and ended up summoning all sorts of nasty stuff, and they moved out, and now you're left to hold the baggage.
Absolutely. Yeah. We've run into that.
Yes, we have.
Don't play with Ouija boards. They're not games. They're real.
They are.
What is a poltergeist?
A noisy ghost.
Noisy ghost. Wait, you speak German?
Absolutely.
Or you think... See, I thought it was like the ghost of like a chicken. I guess that would be a poltergeist.
Poltergeist.
Oh my god.
Dad jokes. I win.
It's so funny.
I'm so funny. Elbow slap. Poltergeists are typically known as... They're called noisy ghosts because they have the ability to manipulate things, to make these noises, to
Right.
move the doorknobs, to actually... move chairs, push books off shelves, turn on bathtubs,
Well, the cupboards.
turn off the lights, all the scary stuff.
Throw things.
right?
Yeah.
All the stuff that we all fear happening in my house. I've told all the spirits in my house, you're fine to be here, but when stuff starts moving, we're gonna have words. Poltergeist activity usually starts off mildly, causing occurrences that people mistake as coincidences. But however, as time passes, the activity intensifies. Sometimes the poltergeist will leave on its own, but other times it will end with deadly consequences that can get really serious. Now, that being said, a majority of the folks in the paranormal field that I'm aware of have a different theory of what a poltergeist is, that it's actually activity that's caused by a subconscious human manipulation. A person that causes the activity to occur without really knowing that they're doing it. And typically, the activity's sporadic. Sometimes it's not happening for weeks on end, and then all of a sudden it happens a whole bunch, like in one day. It typically only happens when one specific person is present. This person's kind of known as the catalyst. And this person is the individual who's basically manifesting the activity without really knowing that they're doing it. Usually it revolves around a preteen female. And before you think that sounds sexist or judgmental, sometimes it does rarely happen with a male, but it's usually commonly around these young preteen females. And as well with that, for some reason, according to one of the websites, they said that it tends to happen more around limestone deposits. Don't know much about that. But the female body produces a great amount of energy during puberty. Right? There's a lot going on. I have a teenage daughter. I can tell you there's a lot of freaking emotional energy that's going on. Some days she comes home and she's amazing. Some days she comes home and holy cow. And so it's basically essentially that without knowing it, sometimes these girls or sometimes these guys will just create so much energy that the environment can actually react to what's going on, and they're actually controlling, and they don't know it. They're the ones that are making things happen just on a subconscious level, and it intensifies.
And they have no clue it's them.
They have no clue it's them.
Yeah, none.
The thing with these is you can't, just sage your house and it makes it go away. These are things that you can't really make the spirit leave. Typically, with this, it is something that can't be removed. It requires counseling with the client, and honestly, waiting it out tends to be the only option. Eventually it'll get better, right?
Yeah.
They grow out of it. Things kind of stabilize.
Well, and if you can pinpoint what it is and bring it to their attention, it's something that, I'm doing that. Oh, okay, well, I'll do this and this and this instead.
What sorts of things trigger it, and yeah. Example of that would be the movie Carrie, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she gets freaked out, she gets angry, she gets upset, and all of a sudden, doors slam shut, and
blood
everywhere, chaos. Yeah.
Sounds like
awesome.
my house.
Never like a prom the same again.
All right. One other one I wanted to touch on, and any human spirit. This is a spirit that was never a human. Our dear beloved animals, our pets that have passed on. I'm a dog guy, and I would be very sad if my sweet little Fiona was not there after she passed away. I'd love to have her there. Anyway, although they can appear as full body apparitions, sometimes animal ghosts are commonly heard rather than seen. They might scratch on the doors or on the walls. They make scraping sounds on the floor, probably because they're dragging their butt on the floor, right?
Wiping it.
Wiping their butt on your
Trying to
carpet.
get that worm off.
That ghost dingleberry. Yeah.
I got a visual.
Sometimes you hear whining. Sometimes you hear barking. And
I've
it's-
had this.
Yeah.
Me too. Yep.
Me too.
A cat that passed away. We heard
Same.
for months afterwards.
Or you
All
hear
of
him,
us in the house.
or you hear him shake. Right. My dog can say you shake. You hear the little jingle of her collar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it can be kind of disconcerting or comforting.
I loved
You
it.
know, when you hear it and it's like, my dog's gone, but, I still know she's here, and I still hear the ball getting dropped at my feet. So, I don't know. I just wanted to touch on that. There's so much more we could go into.
You missed the most famous of the inhuman haunts,
Do tell.
the Hatbox Ghost.
Oh, yeah. It's only if you've been to Disneyland, right?
Or World.
Or to a world.
It's not in Disney World.
It's not?
It
It's
is
only in
only in
Disneyland?
Disneyland.
Oh.
And you got to California, but they're not open in California. So maybe after the pandemic's done, you can go to California.
Yep.
Go to Disneyland.
Bring your K2.
Yeah, they don't let you take a K2 in there.
Sneak it in your bra.
They don't let you investigate Disneyland. Not going to say I tried it. Not going to say I haven't. I'm just going to say some places are not the best place to go and whip out dowsing rods or K2s or Ghost Meter Pros or whatever you want to take to.
Their cameras.
Yeah. You can't get off the ride at the Haunted Mansion, set out a REM pod, and say, "Are there any ghosts here? Come make this thing go off."
They're watching too. They got cameras everywhere.
Yeah. So
And they tell you that too.
anyways, so that's where the only way you can investigate those is using your own body. And honestly, who's got time to investigate those while you're visiting?
You're on vacation.
You're on vacation.
Yeah.
Go eat a corn dog.
Yeah.
Go to the Cozy Cone and get one of those chili cones. Those are amazing. Or Red's Apple Freeze. Now we're on Disneyland.
What did I do?
What did you do?
Let's go.
Before we go down that rabbit hole, let's just sign off for all of our friends at home that are listening. Thank you so much for listening. Remember, go check us out on Facebook, Cold Spot of the Heart. You can also find us on Instagram, coldspot_paranormal_ I keep saying under Scott, right?
Yeah.
Forget Scott and what he's on top of. I don't know. coldspot_paranormal_research. If you like the show, let us know. If you don't, keep it to yourself. In the meantime, anybody else have something to add?
Please share.
Share.
Share. And
Tell
if,
people about us.
if you're having any issues in your home, please go to paranormalhope.com, fill out the questionnaire at the bottom, and we will contact you as soon as we can.
Yeah, we want to help you out. And we do not charge to come out. I know that there are groups out there who will ask for a modest fee or a donation to come in to investigate your home and to help you out. We do not do that. That's tacky. Obviously, if you're too far away, we're probably not going to be able to come. Interstate travel or, but if you're within a reasonable distance, we're in the Salt Lake metro area. If you're along the Wasatch Front or, nearby, we'll make every effort we can to help you out. Or if we can't, then we'll see if we can find somebody in your neck of the woods that can help you. But, we don't ask for anything. We don't feel that's quite that ethical. So
The other thing I wanted to bring up is last episode, our first episode, we captured a couple of EVPs.
EVPs!
Yes. And the timestamps on those were 23 minutes and 2 seconds.
Yes, 2302 and 230405, kind of in between the 0405.
Go listen to it and let us know what you think it is.
Well, you know what you think it is? Do you want to tell them what we think it is? What we
Well,
found
we
out?
have a couple of different theories here.
Do we really? I only know of one.
Well, when we heard it live, and we didn't say anything. Me and Alyssa.
Right. At least, so yeah, we're sitting.
We
here,
were
we're-
freaking out.
We're talking, and we're sitting over here. We're all looking across the table over here at Elisa and Laura, and they're just going, "Did you just hear what?" And it's like, "What
We're
is
signing
going?"
to each other.
Yeah.
From sign language.
And it's like, "What are you guys doing?"
But we thought it was 2 breaths, and Josh and Jamie have gone back and listened to it. And what did you think it was?
Well, Josh actually brought it to my attention. He thinks it's saying "Hi, hun," very breathy. But that's something that my dad would say. He would say, "Hey, hun," or "Hi, hun." So, yeah.
And it was her dad.
Yep. We investigated afterwards. We asked.
It was Larry.
It's Larry, and the reason why it's cool is Jamie told, and maybe I'm telling your story, but her dad was a big part of her investigating and was a big part of her life, and so he's kind of. I look at it and it's like we all have spirit guides, but he's kind of a special guide here because he was. You could
Well, he
almost
was a team
You could
member.
almost call him a founding member of the Cold Spot team.
Yep.
Absolutely.
He's a member emeritus. He's retired,
He's
but
with
not
us.
really. He's actually not retired. He's actually doing the hard work now.
Yes, he is. That's absolutely true. But, it's the one thing that my dad and I really connected on was the paranormal. So the fact that he's still here and participating and trying to be heard is amazing.
I got total chills right now.
And,
So awesome.
And I've told him, I said, saunter up to any of these mics any of the time
Yeah, he's
and
backing up.
let us
Back
know.
off, dude.
And see what was cool, what me and Laura did notice is that nobody was around their mic. And it was only happening while you were talking. And all the rest of us were far enough away from the mics that you can't go into
Right.
it. So Laura and I were like, what?
Yeah, and I had no idea at the time. I'm just sitting here trying to remember.
Telling your story.
Telling my story.
She thought
and
we
these
were
guys
so
are
rude. We're
freaking out. And I'm like,
behind the
I'm like,
microphone.
what the heck is going on?
We're not paying attention to you. I'm just kidding.
Laura, is he the one right now that's making every hair on my legs and my
Yeah.
arms and everything stand up right now?
He's moved from over here, and he's over
Jeez.
Go, Dad.
behind you.
Enough. Yield. I yield. All right. Well, Larry, we appreciate you being here. And for all of our listeners, we appreciate you. Like you said, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your neighbor down the road, tell your parishioners, whatever. Tell everybody, and come listen to our show. Come check our websites. And in the meantime, be safe out there and haunt on. I don't know. I don't have any cool catchy phrases.
Thank you for listening to the Paranormal Peeps podcast. You can find us on social media at Twitter at CPR Paranormal, on Facebook at Paranormal Peeps Podcast and Cold Spot Paranormal Research. And you can find us on Instagram at coldspot_paranormal_research.